New updates have just become available for the DJI Mini 3 Pro and the DJI Mini 3, bringing two big upgrades that lots of people have been asking for that will help you get higher quality images and more stable and smooth video. Let's take a look at the new features, how they work, and then the settings I am using for the best results. Let's jump right in. Now, if you're new around here, welcome to the Drone Creative, the channel that helps you learn more about flying drones. From the basics to the most advanced techniques to help you capture beautiful photos and videos. So if you would like to see more of that, then please consider subscribing and making sure that notification bell is on so that you don't miss any of my upcoming videos. It would be greatly appreciated. Okay, let's start quickly with the DJI Mini 3, which has had an update which would be great if you use this drone to capture images. So you want to make sure that you have updated your aircraft firmware to version 01.00.0200. And for both these updates for the Mini 3 Pro and Mini 3, there is also controller firmware updates. So if you're using the DJI RC, these updates were added with version 01.02.0500. However, there were reports of people not being able to access these new features, so DJI has released a hotfix update. So you want to make sure you're on the latest version, which is 01.02.0600, just to make sure that you have access to these features. Now, if you're using the DJI RC, that's the controller that you attach your phone to, then you will need to update the DJI Fly app on your phone. And again, these features were added with the DJI Fly app version 1.9.8. But again, because of that issue where some people weren't able to access these features, DJI has pushed a hotfix update. So you want to make sure that you've updated to version 1.9.9. Now, in the DJI Mini 3 update notes, you will see that they have added support for the 48 megapixel photo mode. Now, before this update, the DJI Mini 3 only had a single shot 12 megapixel mode. So this new mode, this 48 megapixel photo mode, will be great if you like to capture images with your drone specifically for printing. That extra resolution will be great for printing in larger formats, or it can give you more scope to crop your image in your image editor. So to use this mode, once you've updated your controller and drone, you simply want to go into photo mode. And now if you scroll down to the bottom, you will see this new 48 megapixel mode. You simply want to tap that option. And something to be aware of is the format settings are independent for the single shot mode and the 48 megapixel mode. So if you have single shot set up, if I go back here to capture in JPEG and RAW, and you want to capture your new 48 megapixel images in RAW, when you go down to that 48 megapixel mode, you will see that the format doesn't carry over. So make sure to tap on format on the bottom right of the screen and set this to RAW again if you capture your images in RAW. Then all you have to do is line up your image, hit the shutter button to capture an image, and now you can capture 48 megapixel images with the DJI Mini 3. Looking now at the DJI Mini 3 Pro, which has also had an update that adds an exciting new feature that will let you fine-tune the drone even more so that you can get super smooth video. So you want to update your aircraft firmware to version 01.00.0500. And if you take a look at the release notes, you will see they have added gain and expo tuning. The maximum flight speed, brake sensitivity, and other settings can now be adjusted in different flight modes. Now what this means is we now have settings to control our max horizontal speed, or max ascent speed, or max descent speed, and how quickly the drone brakes in our controller settings. And this allows us to get something similar to the tripod mode, which used to be available in a lot of the older DJI drones. Now the reason why this is super useful is because a lot of people have found that if you move the joystick the full amount in cine mode, that the drone actually flies too fast to get a really slow cinematic shot. Well, these new settings allow us to slow that motion down even further to get that really nice, slow, subtle motion. And we can not only control the horizontal speed, we can control the ascent speed, descent speed, and how quickly the drone brakes when you let go of the joystick as well. So let's take a look at these settings. So to access them, you want to tap the settings button on the top right of the controller screen. You want to go to control, and then you want to scroll down to gain and expo tuning. And in here you will find these new settings. Now you can adjust these max speeds for each flight mode. So you can set them for cine mode, normal mode, and sport mode, allowing you to really fine tune the drone to react to your controller and joystick inputs exactly how you want. So let's take a look at the first option, which is max horizontal speed, which is how quickly the drone will fly forwards or backwards. So if I increase this all the way up to 10 meters per second and go back and fly forward by pushing the right stick forward, you can see the drone is flying forward quite fast. This seems more like a normal mode than a cine mode. But if I go back into the settings menu, I can lower this all the way down to 1 meters per second. So now if I go back and fly forward again, you can see the drone is flying forward much more slowly. And it's this setting that is going to allow you to really lower that flight speed down to give you that really slow, subtle push forward motion to get them really cinematic shots. Now going back in, we also have max ascent speed. So I can increase this all the way up to 3 meters per second. So if I go back and raise the drone up by pushing the left stick up to ascend, you can see we're ascending quite quickly. And then if I go in and I lower this all the way down to its lowest value, which is 1 meters per second, go back and again start to raise the drone up or ascend it, you can see it's now ascending much slower. Another option we can control is the max descent speed. So we can increase this all the way up again to 3 meters per second. And if I lower the drone by pulling down on the left stick, you can see it's descending very quickly. Again, this is more like a normal mode. And we can also go in and lower this all the way down to 1 meters per second. And again, if I go back and start to descend the drone, you can see it's descending much more slowly. Now, if we scroll down, we have a fourth new option, which is called brake sensitivity. And this is basically how quickly the drone will bring itself to a stop if you're flying forwards or backwards and you let off the joystick. Now, this setting will be good to help dial out jerky motion if, like me, you find it hard to be precise on the joysticks, specifically when coming to a stop. So if you're flying up towards a point of interest and you're trying to slow the drone down, if you just come off the joystick or you find it hard to slow down in the joystick, then you can dial out some of that jerky movement by adjusting this brake sensitivity setting. So let me give you a demonstration of this working so that you can see the effects it has on your drone slowing down. And the best way to do this is to put the drone into sport mode. And I'm going to go across to the sport gain and expo tuning settings and scroll down to brake sensitivity. Now, if I increase this to 150, that is the highest brake sensitivity there is, which means the drone will slow down the quickest when you let off that joystick. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start flying the drone forwards and I'm going to let off the joystick, and you can see the drone slows down very quickly. But if I go in and lower this down to its lowest setting of 10, this is the least sensitive setting you can have it. And what that means is if I let off the joystick if flying forward or backwards, the drone will actually buffer out that movement. It won't come to an immediate stop. It will slowly bring itself to a stop. So let me demonstrate that now. Again, I'm going to push forward and I'm going to let off the joystick, and you can see the drone is actually still slowing down, and now it's stopped. So it's buffered that movement out. Now, this is great if you're looking cinematic motion. Again, if you find it hard to slow the drone down with the joysticks and you just come off the joystick, then this will help smooth out that motion so the shot isn't ruined. However, something you must keep in mind is that if you're flying towards an obstacle and you let off the joystick at the last minute, if you have that sensitivity really low, the drone will take a minute to slow down. So you're increasing the distance it takes for the drone to come to a stop. Now, just before we take a look at the best settings I'm using to get cinematic motion with your drone, there was actually another new feature added to the Mini 3 and Mini 3 Pro. If you take a look at the update notes, you will see they have added reset all settings and clear all data options to the drone. Now, you can access these by going to your settings menu, going to about, and now if you scroll down to the bottom, you will see these two new options. So if you tap Reset All Settings, you will see that it resets your controller back to its factory settings. It will put all the settings on the controller back to their original values. So again, if you've been playing about with the settings and the drone isn't handling how you wanted it to, you want to go back to the way it came whenever you got it, you can just hit this option and reset all them values back to their originals. Now, the option below that says Clear All Data. Now, if you press that, you will see on the screen what you will be clearing. So you can see this will clear the data in the aircraft internal storage and SD card. It will clear the aircraft logs, unlocking licenses, and other user data stored on the aircraft. Now this will be useful if maybe you're selling your drone and you want to make sure all your personal information has been removed. Then by going in and pressing this clear button, that will make sure all this information has been deleted. However, you will see a warning that says if an accident has occurred, contact DJI support and make sure assessment of your product is settled before clearing the data. This is because some of the information, such as the aircraft logs, may be needed in your case if you're doing a DJI Care refresh or getting your drone repaired, for example. So make sure not to clear any data until you've contacted them first. Now let's quickly take a look at the settings I have settled on for getting slow, cinematic, subtle movement with your drone. Now these settings are going to be personal to the type of flyer you are. So what I recommend is that you use these settings as a starting point and then play about with the values to find a setup that works for you. So let's first take a look at the cine settings. So I've set the max horizontal speed to 2 meters per second. I find 1 meter per second just to be slightly too slow. I find 2 meters per second to be the sweet spot to give you that nice subtle push forward motion. For max ascent and max descent speed, I've set it to 1 meters per second, and this is great if you're doing a push forward rise up move. I find before in cine mode, you only had to push the left joystick upwards a tiny bit to get that nice push forward rise up motion. But with these set to 1 meters per second, the joystick's much more forgiving. You can push it much further up, almost all the way up, and get that nice slow rise up push forward motion. So these settings have really helped with that maneuver. Scrolling down to my brake sensitivity, I have this set to 30. I find if you have it dialed all the way down, the drone just takes too long to come to a stop. That being said, this setting, the brake sensitivity, is less noticeable in cine mode because you're never really going that fast. The drone never really has that much momentum. You do notice this setting much more in normal and sport mode, but I find for cine mode 30 is the sweet spot to buffer out that movement a tiny bit. Now, for my other settings such as max angular velocity, yaw smoothness, expo settings, I actually have another video where I go over these settings entirely and explain what they do, including explaining what the expo settings do, and I'll link that down below if you'd like to watch that. Looking now at my normal mode settings, now I use this mode when I'm higher up in the air. I find cine mode is slightly too slow when you're high up in the air to convey motion, so I use normal mode in this case. Now for my max horizontal speed, I've lowered this to 7. I find the highest setting to be a touch too fast, so I've just lowered this down to 7. For my max ascent speed and max descent speed, I have this set to 2 meters per second, and I find setting it to this gives me much more control when ascending and descending in normal mode. And then for brake sensitivity, which again is one of the newer settings, which decides how long it takes the drone to slow down, the distance it takes the drone to slow down, I've lowered this slightly to 50. I still want the drone to buffer out some of that movement, but again I find if you set this to its lowest setting, the drone just takes too long to come to a stop. So I find 50 to be the sweet spot. Looking now at my sport mode settings, now I never use sport mode when recording video. The primary reason I use sport mode is to get the drone into position. I put the drone in the air, flick it into sport mode, get it into position, looking at my point of interest nice and quickly, and then put it into cine mode or normal mode to capture video. So I have these settings tuned so that the drone is as fast and as agile in the air as possible. So I have the max horizontal speed, max ascent speed, and max descent speed up to their max setting, again just so I can get that drone into position really quickly. And I have brake sensitivity set to 150. In sport mode, if you're flying horizontally really fast and you let off the joystick, you want the drone to come to as quick a stop as possible. So I find having this set at 150 allows the drone to come to an immediate stop. So those are the settings I am currently using to get the best results with this drone. And that's the new updates available for the DJI Mini 3 Pro and DJI Mini 3. Now, before you go, if you liked this video and you learned something new, please let me know by giving me the thumbs up and clicking that like button down below. And if you love all things drones, then I recommend you check out my channel where I have a ton of other content to help you level up your drone game. Make sure to subscribe and make sure that notification bell is on so that you don't miss any of my upcoming videos. It would be greatly appreciated. If you want to stick around and see a few more of them videos now, here's a few I personally recommend. I'll not keep you back any further. Thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you over there.